All right, Coach Conroy, what you got in this one?
So I was gonna, as we were saying, I wanted to take a look at the Jazz roster really quick, and actually having the opportunity today to meet Coach Bindmore, not impressed with his knowledge of the NBA. I'm not as rock solid that way, but I'm going to challenge him with a question about that about the Magic lineup versus the Suns lineup. Obviously, you're not going to have guys playing the entire game. So when I take a look at that, and Stockton's got to come out of the game, but he's replaced with Williams. I know you guys said earlier that Eaton wouldn't play as many minutes as he had done in an earlier matchup, but I guess, Coach, I'd throw it out to you and just to pick your brain, is there going to be enough basketballs to go around there for that Magic team with Hardaway and McGrady? When they're on the floor at the same time, it's an exciting thought, but I would challenge and just ask you for your thoughts. Is there going to be enough basketballs to go around? Because both of those guys were electric when the ball was in their hand, and I always wonder sometimes if that didn't lead a little bit to the demise of Shaq and Hardaway not sticking it out together in Orlando. So I'm going to throw it back at you and just get your thoughts that way, and then I'll give you my pick.
Okay, for sure. You're 100% correct, because I think that was the biggest thing for me in Hardaway's, again, short careers. I don't think he had the opportunity to really grow and mature as a player because he was, I think, more of a shoot first or a score first mentality. And the problem with that is he only scored about 15 a game, I believe. I don't know. You can stat check, but I think that was about it, 15, 16 a game. So it's not like he was a 20-some point per game scorer with a score first mentality. But you also have Scott Skiles and you have Jameer Nelson. Scott Skiles is one of the greatest assist men that we have ever seen, who also can shoot. Jameer Nelson was a very solid point guard. Now they're smaller. That allows us to, again, play, I think, with Hardaway potentially on a wing. Now, we've never got to see that, so does that work? But that's something I'd like to play with. The other thing as a coach is if you got a guy, the ball's in his hands, and he's making awful decisions, shooting too much, not, being a ball stopper, with this bench, I have the luxury to sit him. I don't care if it's Penny Hardaway and how talented he is. I'll still sit him and play Scott and Jameer, who's going to help our team win. So, and then Penny's going to get on board and say, okay, put me on the wing. I'll run the wing. Let Scott pass to me. I'll look to score. And then he still has handles, still has passing, and he's still, what was he, 6'7"? So I think we can make it work. And I don't think Penny ever had problems with being coachable, because that does matter, So I think that we can make that work.
Okay. So,
but it's a great point.
Little Penny doesn't get involved. That could be a problem, right? If he rears his ugly head. But I like your thinking that way. But I am going to go the opposite, and I really I like Hornacek. I like Williams. I like Kirilenko, and I think Dantley is truly underappreciated in his time in the NBA. So I'm gonna go the opposite. I'll go with the Jazz. That'll put pressure on Pick.
Right.
Coach Boardman.
Coach Conroy mentioned about Adrian Dantley, and then if I remember right, the first round simulation, like he had the most minutes and the most points and the most shots. So, NBA 2K or whatever you're playing, they appreciate Adrian Dantley. And I think, when I came into, NBA, Adrian Dantley was past his prime. So I didn't see like that Adrian Dantley. And I know statistically he was an outstanding player, for a time in the NBA. But I do think that this would revolve around him. But also I can't believe we really haven't mentioned Karl Malone. Stockton's other half was Karl Malone. And, I remember with The Last Dance just being played out, Karl Malone had a big role in that series where they stretched the Bulls about as far as they wanted to go. I forget, he was perfect for most of a game, a pivotal game, whatever. So, he obviously was no slouch himself. I keep going back and forth with this matchup because, the Magic, they're starting guards. That's a big three, and you take Howard. We did mention this. His peak was very short-lived, but he was a very good player for a couple years in the NBA with the Magic. But there isn't a lot of depth that has size for the Magic. So if the Jazz can play their game and, force it in or near the paint or whatever, or if the Magic, if a couple of the bigs get in foul trouble, I mean, it's a completely different game. Now, Coach Beinborn, you brought up a very good point where you can really, mix and match the guards for the Magic and maybe create some good matchups or whatever. I can't think of the word. Good combos, to fit different situations and maybe create matchup problems for the Jazz. This is a super duper tough one, I think. Because when it was my wheelhouse, it was Hornacek and Karl Malone, and they pushed the Bulls, the greatest team ever, as far as they wanted to go. I think I got to go Jazz on this one. Coach Conroy said you put a good Adrian Dantley with that team. You got a little bit more depth. Rudy Gobert with that team. I think the Jazz can do it, even with the three-headed monster with a couple dudes on the bench. I just think they're better inside, a smidge more depth. I'm going Jazz.
See, this will be our first one because I'm Magic. I think that you put Howard on Karl Malone, and so he's athletic enough and big enough to, handle Karl Malone. Like I said, the matchups would be interesting. Go smaller guard go against Stockton. So we're at our 2-2 here with this one. We might have to phone a friend here at the end of the second round. But I don't know if anyone can be swayed. But I just like the matchups that the Magic can do. Yes.
I want to ask a question. So Coach Mark, he had mentioned Dwight Howard with Rudy, and they would cancel each other. I thought that's what you said. Was that right? But now Coach Pick says that Karl Malone and Howard would be the matchup. So I'm not as familiar with Turkoglu. How is he defensively? How would he match up with either Malone or Rudy Gobert?
I'll tell you, that's the biggest weakness. When I'm looking at this, and that's what I thought Coach was actually going to bring up, because that to me is the toughest one: is who's guarding Karl Malone. You got Turkoglu cannot guard him, and then you got Vucevic as your backup option, and they don't have any other bigs. So again, this is going to have to be up and down game, a full court game, utilizing our speed, our athleticism. I get it. I like Dantley. I thought Dantley was fun to watch. I thought he was good. But he was only 6'5". So you're also looking at that matchup against Tracy.
Yeah, who's going to guard Tracy McGrady? Karolinko? I say who's going to guard Tracy? I'm guessing Karolinko would, when he comes in. But that's a big matchup there. That and the same thing. Anderson could post up mid, and so could Penny. Someone's going to be backed in and posted up as a guard if
right.
Also with that Magic team.
Right, and here's what's going to happen. Again, Karl's scoring was pick and rolls. He loved that mid-post game. That turnaround little fadeaway was beautiful. You're going to have to try to keep the ball out of his hands. You might have to throw some doubles on him. At least we got length to double with. But again, if we're forced to go small because of the Penny problem that Coach brought up, Scott and Jameer aren't going to be much on a double, help on a double, pass right over them. But so we'd have to double with different guys than the other guys that we have length with. But no, there is not a single person on that team that can guard Karl Malone one-on-one, besides Dwight. And then you got smaller players. I'd put Vucevic on Rudy. Rudy's not a huge scoring threat. So you can do some things to make it. I would definitely put Dwight on Karl, though, like you brought up. I think that's a great idea. But it's a tough one. It's a tough one. It's a matchup. It's a matchup issue.
Well, I'll throw this out. I guess I didn't bring up Malone because when I looked at that Magic roster, I thought stopping him was going to be really hard. Maybe Howard does it again. Not sure which, but I guess I'll throw this one out there in honor of Jerry Sloan, one of the guys that I really respected in the game. His passing was, I think, just last week. So I guess I'd throw out there who's coaching the Magic versus Jerry Sloan that was with the Jazz for ever. He's going to come up with ways to stop that lineup. So I'm going to throw that out at you, Pick. Who's coaching them? Who's coaching the Magic?
Oh, geez. Who coached him with Penny and Shaq? I forget. I know
Hill, Brian Hill wasn't.
Either Brian Hill or Stan Van Gundy, which one of them. So yes, the coaching would go to the Jazz also, I would imagine. So I don't know. We might have to come back to this one. If you just shoot some text to some buddies. That's what we do in the baseball ones. When we're tight like this, we send text to someone else. So right now we're 2-2. We'll come back to this one.
Is Steve available by text?
I could try. I'll try to get those Steve. As we do that, we've got the Rockets, the 3 seed, versus the 14th seed Cavs. Now the Rockets might be the biggest team in NBA history there, Coach Conroy. So let's get to this. So, all right. I think they're both on page 2. Heat and Rockets and
Cavs.
Oh, did I miss Cavs in the other one? Anyway, Rockets. Harden, Stevie Francis, Alvin Hayes, The Dream, Mo Malone, The Jet, Maxwell, Otis Thorpe, Yao, and Sampson are the Rockets, and then Cavs. They do have LeBron. They got Mark Price, Kyrie, LeBron, K-Love, Brad Doherty, Terrell Brandon, Ron Harper, Larry Nance, Hot Rod, and Iguodala. Yeah. Gosh, I need to practice. Yes. So those are the lines. So those are what we have for rosters. Mark, it's your turn to start here. So what do you got in this Cavs Rocket matchup?
Look, if you coach this Rockets team properly, I will find it very difficult for any team to beat them. Honestly, now I think the problem is take Harden off the point. I don't like seeing that. There are other Kenny Smith and clearly Francis and so on. There's other point guards on the floor that I'm gonna put the ball in their hands and let Harden do what Harden does. Harden again, I think is another product of D'Antoni, with systematic, like, here's what we're going to do. You watched Harden on early on there, and you watched Harden at OKC, happy to come off the bench, play, move the ball. He was fine with it, and I think you can do that. I think that Harden is one of the best scorers that I think the game has ever seen. He's so good off the dribble. I mean, I wouldn't allow him to dribble 37 times in a possession. I think that's vital. But you have to use this team right. Look, you got Yao on the bench. You have Ralph Sampson. Ralph Sampson, again, is probably forgotten in a lot of conversations for his athleticism, length, his ability to, nobody understood what he was at the time because of how tall he was, and he had a skill set that a lot of guys his height did not have. It was different. And I think that there's just so much length that what you can do defensively, it's going to be hard to score. And in this matchup, again, I said it last week, I think, they have LeBron, I get it, so he'll probably get them to a Game 7, but then they'll lose it. So that's where I'm going with this matchup.
Coach Conroy?
I like everything that you said there. You think about Ralph Sampson. I think about watching him when he was at Virginia, actually, and amazing to think that you always try to talk about guys, could their game transition to now. I think he's got a lot of things that he did then that would fit better in the NBA now than they did at the time that he played, right? So I think he could even be a better player now than he was as a phenomenal player at the time that he played. I actually just listened to a podcast through the Athletic website where Mark Price was talking, and he's incredibly tough, right? I think he'd be the one guy that could earn that respect of James and maybe push his buttons a little bit more, make him a little bit tougher. Larry Nance was amazing, was an amazing player, at least somebody that I really liked what he did. But I gotta go with Coach Beinborn. I think there's no way you're gonna beat that Rockets team if you can keep Harden from dribbling away the shot clock every time and picking up an 80-foot bomb.
Rudy T I probably coach the Rockets. So if we start going coaches, we got Rudy T and the Cavs.
Lenny Wilkins. Give me Lenny Wilkins.
Lenny Wilkins. All right, Lenny Wilkins and Rudy T going against him here. Coach Boardman.
Hey, let me see the Rockets lineup again. Remember round one, I was so concerned that you can only play so many big men at a time, right? I just want to see what else we got there. Yeah, I mean, it's a tough argument because even aside from the bigs, you got a pretty nice depth at guard also with Vernon Maxwell and Kenny Smith. And Otis Thorpe, he was, a nice complimentary player for the team he was on, which would only be, even more true with this sort of an all-star team, the all-time team. I agree with Coach Mark that I would rather have Harden play off the ball as much as possible, until maybe the fourth quarter or whatever. One thing I just learned recently is, Harden set the NBA record for turnovers, like consecutive years, so I know that's a little bit of a product of having the ball in his hands so much. But it was something that I didn't realize. I think of him having the ball at crunch time and making shots, but he also turns it over quite a bit. But no, this is they got too much depth too. Like Coach Mark said, you got LeBron, and LeBron is outstanding player, and he is a proven winner. But the Rockets just have too much firepower. I'm Rockets all the way.
So my question is, could the Dream guard LeBron?
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
I do too.
Because I'm not super familiar with Alvin Hayes. What his defensive prowess was. I know he's almost a bigger guy also, but I think the Dream could guard LeBron in that way. And then, oh my gosh, then you could do some different things that way. But yeah, I'm a Rockets also. They just have a little too much. Once again, I just don't, Doherty and Nance and all those guys have had their hands full inside. And I know Rudy T would get the ball out of Harden's hands and let him be a shooter and scorer rather than in doing everything, putting the ball in his hand. I know, Mark, when we first started, you talked about the usage percentage of Harden and how high it was with him and Russ and some of those guys. Get out his hands, drop, go old school post. This is almost an old school, drop it in the post, and then, that's where you start with the Rockets. So I think all four of us are Rockets here. But it's definitely, like I said, they'd have to do some things different to be able to handle LeBron. But in the end, I think Rockets go.
Alvin Hayes was 6'9", by the way, pick.
I thought he was bigger, so he's almost a power forward also, trying to find somewhere to be. So the Dream could potentially go to LeBron, and Alvin Hayes and the other two guys can slide down. So it would be interesting to coach a team that has that size. The next one we have the Bulls versus the 11 Magic. So the Bulls, Coach Conroy, think about the Bulls back in the day. Add Artis Gilmore, I think, and then Luol Deng, Jimmy Butler, Derrick Rose to that team. So they're going to be tough to beat. And Coach, once we get going, it will start you. So we've got Derrick Rose, MJ, Scottie Pippen, Horace Grant, Artis Gilmore, BJ, Jimmy Butler, Luol Deng, Kukoc, and Noah for the Bulls. And the Mavs. Oh, there they are. And the Mavs, we've got Doncic, Blackman, Finley, Porzingis, Nowitzki, Harper, Jason Terry, Mashburn, JJ, and Roy Tarpley. I know, so we made subs from the first round there. So anyway, Mavs, Bulls, Coach Conroy.
Well, I don't think you can bet against Jordan. We just spent 5 weeks, not taking our eyes off the screen for 2 hours every Sunday night. But I just think when you go down the line with the matchups, I think it's kind of cool what you guys did there with with the Bulls and kind of who you brought in. You reached as far back as Artis Gilmore. I remember being a kid and, watching him play. And I think he was a really, really good player, both offensively and defensively. I don't know any of his stats, but, and then you got Derrick Rose running the point there. I mean, you got Horace Grant. You've got some of the greatest players on the bench even that did some tremendous things. I think Joakim Noah is incredibly solid, comes in to replace Gilmore. I don't think you lose anything other than that Jordan Pippen spot. I think you can take the other three and replace them fairly easily with the other guys. I know it might be a stretch with Armstrong, but I think he was pretty good, especially surrounded with the talent that they have. I just think the Bulls, that starting five is just too much for anybody.
Coach Borman, can you take the Mavs in this?
No. I'm the Bulls.
The
I'm
Bulls.
just, yeah.
The Bulls.
Too much firepower.
Yeah, I like the Mavs team. They'd be kind of a fun team, but they're running against the wrong team right now to get out of the second round. I do like that line. We talked about them last week. That's a dangerous team, but they just don't have enough. Coach Meinborn, anything to add?
No, besides the fact how great of a teammate would Jimmy Butler be for Mike? Like, again, you think about nowadays with, I hate to say it, but the softness of some of these people that would have struggled playing with Mike, and they would probably cried or asked for a trade. Jimmy Butler's like one of those guys that's so old school that was the guy that Mike wanted on his team. Jimmy Butler is a perfect matchup. And I would actually go small. And I know we don't need to debate because this is done, but I look at that roster. I would probably go small with that roster and start Jimmy and Pip, and bring Horace off the bench just because Pip can guard multiple positions. Butler's so phenomenal on both ends of the floor. I love that. I just love that team. And yes, that Mavs team's really good, and I like them a lot. But that's an awful matchup.
Oh, boy. You imagine the defensive pressure that Bulls team could put up if you went small like that. Ouch. All right, we've got the 7 seed, the Celtics versus the 10 seed, the Thunder. Let's see. I think they're both over here.
And how nice would it be to see Rodman on that group, by the way?
Yes, it would. All right. So Pistons, we had DJ, which I would probably DJ and Rondo at the point, Paul Pierce, the legend, Kevin McHale, the Chief, Reggie Lewis, Tatum, Cornbread Maxwell, and Dave Collins. And why can't I always?
No, they were right next to each other, weren't they?
Who are they playing?
I think the Pistons Celtics.
No, it was
Maybe
Celtics. Celtics Thunder, sorry.
I'm sorry too. Dang it.
And I didn't see them. All right.
This could be a fun one.
All right, the Thunder. They got the Glove, Russ, KD, Rashard Lewis, Sean Kemp, Dale Ellis, Detlef Schrempf, the X-Man, Ibaka, and Steven Adams. So we are ready to start this. So Coach Borman to start this one off.
Can I see the Celtics one more time? Was I right? It's Celtics, yeah.
Yeah.
I just feel like the Celtics are going to be a tough out. I want to double check. Sorry to do that to you.
No, you're all right. I know where they are now.
The Celtics bench isn't as good as I would think it would be, but
I was surprised too when I kind of put these teams together.
I think it was Coach Conroy mentioned how the Bulls starting five is just too tough for teams. I feel like maybe this would be the case too. I mean, that's a formidable starting five for the Celtics. And Lewis was no slouch. Dang, but again, the big three of the Thunder, that's tough. Oh my goodness.
We'll come
And their
back to
bench.
you.
All right, come back to me. The Thunder's bench is better. I believe that. Oh man.
This one, yeah, this one's a fun one. I guess it's to me now. The Celtics are awful good, and once again, the style of play and the
Mhm.
matchup are a big part of this. You've got McHale and Parrish inside. Versus the athleticism of the Thunder team. Whether you drop KD down to the 4 and put someone else there. Yeah, this one is interesting. I do like the Thunder myself, and I think they're a little deeper. I know. Not by much, though. Once again, we're assuming that the glove and can get Uncle Russ to play ball on the wing and just do his thing to keep the ball in his hands and just keep attacking. I think that's a matchup. If you can get Russell just get to that mid-range pull up and attack the rim, they're going to have a hard time guarding them. I like the glove defensively, gives them a chance. Obviously, KD and the legend, that would be fun too to go against each other. Sean Kemp, super athletic. They've got some toughness off the bench with Ibaka, the X-Man, and Steven Adams. Detlef Schrempf was a scorer. So really, if you start Peyton and Westbrook, they're probably not going to be in a ton together just because they need, because off the bench, they don't have another point guard, which means that you're bringing someone else. Darrell Ellis can really shoot it. So once again, it's a team that can score a bunch. And, if they could play defensively, I think the Celtics would have a hard time. So I'm going Thunder. Mark.
As you're man, I think it's going to boil down to athleticism. And so, I don't want to bet against Larry Legend, but I just feel like the Thunder just way too athletic. I think I'm ready to go Thunder / Supersonics.
Yes. Coach Feinborn.
So again, the only thing is I wish if I could kick Westbrook off the team, or just suspend him for the game or the series, I think that we are going to win it, because I think it's harder to get Westbrook to actually be coached and play the way I want him to than it would be Harden or any of the other guys we've ever talked about. He's my scary X factor. I think this team wins because of talent. I think Westbrook can take a team, and again, we've seen it how many times in playoff situations when Durant and him were together, where they're rolling, doing great, and suddenly KD's not coming off screens. He's right here, and Russ takes 3 more dribbles and then gives him the ball, or just pulls a 3 in transition because, KD did it a couple times, and Russ hasn't learned he can't do that yet. That's my biggest issue. But I wouldn't start this way. I'd change the starting lineup. I think that playing alongside or with Gary Payton helps, because if there's a guy that's as hard-headed and tough, and they're from the same, they're both Cali guys. Oakland and I think Russ is from LA somewhere. But I think Gary Payton, as far as he's a type of player that had a toughness, he has an ego, but his ego wasn't related to scoring. It was related to winning, and defense was such a huge part of that. I think Payton can get Westbrook to play alongside, hopefully. But Durant is just, again, I know his career is not over, so people don't want to put him up there yet, but we're talking about a 7-foot guard who shoots the 3 as well as anybody ever. He defends really well. Again, I hate to go against Larry ever, but you look at that Celtics roster, and there are 2 players, both their point guards, that I think are great point guards. I love them for their toughness and defense, but neither one of them can shoot, and I'm not guarding them. We're going to sag off, do different things, and neither one of them are shooters, and that hurts. You got point guards or anybody that stands out there, and you don't have to guard them. And I think that there's too much talent on that Thunder team.
Coach Conroy?
Yeah, I think I have to side with you guys, although I'm not sure that any of us can appreciate Dave Cowens and how good he was. I think he might be just kind of out of our reach for maybe appreciating, maybe as we would start to see him or know him. I think that was a little bit maybe out of reach. I think he's another one that just an amazing player that people don't recognize, right? Coach Beinborn, I'm with you though on that Thunder roster. I'm not sure I would start Westbrook. I'm not sure I wouldn't put him on maybe some of the guys that were on the bench where they're not going to be as tore up about not getting as many touches and let him do his thing in that way, and let those other guys run with it. And I think that would create the separation between Bird, McHale, and Parrish's dominance is get him out of the lineup. And now the athleticism, when I look at the Thunder, I just don't think the matchup is there. You know, I think Sean Kemp is an incredibly difficult matchup. And when I look at these guys, I'm not sure any of them can stop Peyton when he's really, whether he's passing. I think he's incredibly tough. But yeah, I think the problem with that starting lineup is truly Westbrook. But I'd still go with the Thunder even at that.
And the last second round matchup, we have the 2 seed Spurs versus the 18 Warriors. All right, this one, another man, they're all tough, but this one's fun because you go, really the Warriors were small ball before they won the championship. So Spurs, Tony Parker, Ginobili, Kawhi, Timmy Duncan, the Admiral, Avery Johnson, Bowen, Elliot, Gervin, and I, for some reason, don't have anyone. And I think we went back and forth with this. I think, can Ori go here? Because Ori's nowhere right now. I think we're going to put Ori here because he's such a big part of multiple teams there. I didn't quite know where to put him. So I think Ori was going to go there. So that's the Spurs. And then you've got the Warriors. So the Warriors, they got Steph, Clay, Draymond, Chris Mullin, Richmond, Tim Hardaway, Marcelonis, Baron Davis, Jason Richardson, and Bogert. So once again, the Warriors are definitely small ball going against, once again, the Spurs who go with Timmy D and the big fundamental. With that, and who went first last time?
I was supposed to, and remember I hemmed and hawed, ended up going second, but that's okay, it counts.
So, all right, so that means I'm first here. Boy, I love the Warriors are the team that I would love to go because shooting the three and moving the ball around is all fun. Spurs, Parker, Ginobili, but inside is what I worry about for the Warriors. Mm-hmm. Can they handle, Duncan and Robinson? So the Warriors would have to outscore them. They're going, the Admiral was athletic enough to be able to handle, being that, guarding Draymond. And once again, if I'm the Spurs, I'm allowing Draymond to shoot 23. So I don't care if he makes 15 of them. I'm sagging off Draymond, which means that, they could pick and roll. So you got to be close enough to him. Oh, it is hard to go against the Warriors on this one. I like small ball. I'm going Warriors. I just think, but Kawhi's there. Dang it! I'm fighting inside this one because I love Kawhi. Him and the Greek Freak are my 2 favorite players in the league right now. The bench. You know what? I'm going Spurs. I just think Timmy D and Duncan inside. I think they've got enough defense to try to contain the Warriors. So yeah, I'm going Spurs. Not sure why completely yet, but I would like to hear what you guys say. Mark, what do you got?
Oh boy, I think what you hit was the size and as far as the inside game, but it's hard to go against the Warriors. If you think of how fun that Run TMC team was, and they had 0 bigs of value. Honestly, I mean, you think back to who the bigs were on that team. I think Alton Lister was the starting center.
Was Gatling on that team yet? Chris Gatling?
No, I don't think Chris Gatling was.
Okay.
I don't think he was on that team, and I'm pretty sure that Who was it? Was Frank Wachowski on that team? I want to say he was. I don't remember. But it was some backup that I'm like, okay, they just have no depth. Well, but those three players made that team exciting, made that team dangerous. Now replace that with run CMT. So now you got Curry and Thompson instead, and you got Mullen and Tim coming off the bench. So this game is going to be about pace. It's going to be about outscoring. Yes, they're going to play defense. Draymond brings toughness. Bogut is a really good inside presence who again, at his best, was one of the best centers in the league at the time. So we're talking about before the injuries. They don't have a lot of size. You know, they are going to have to go that group with Draymond playing the five at times, clearly, and that might hurt them against that. But there's a lot that this team can do when you talk about scoring, shooting, and how dangerous they are. So I think in a series, there are going to be two games where they don't shoot great, and they might end up getting beat by 20, you know, in those games.
Tyrone Hill.
Right, because it's going to hard. If they don't shoot well, it's going to be a hard time to rebound. Oh, there you go. Tyrone Hill was the starting power forward. And again, solid.
And Paul Malowski was on Paul.
It was okay. It was Paul. So he was big and slow, and McKeskey, yes. So not Frank. I knew it was one of the guys that ended up at the Bucks, you know, with the Bucks. So I just really think that offensive firepower, shooting, passing, unselfishness, I think is going to be dangerous. And again, this would also go back to Coach's early question: is what rules are we playing under? That's a game changer in this matchup. So, but I'm gonna go with the Warriors because they're more fun right now.
Coach Conroy.
All right, so I have to ask you a question. As you were kind of developing our generation of players, like, and I'm just asking like what your cutoff was, because I see we got the Iceman there with the Spurs, but somehow on the Warriors you left off the bucket shooter, right? You left off Rick Barry.
See,
so,
when did Barry stop?
That's what I wasn't sure. That's how I wasn't. I thought him and Gervin were at the same time, so that's why I was a little confused.
Because Gervin played I thought he played a little bit later into it, and he wasn't in his heyday. So go ahead and tell us while I look it up. Go ahead and tell us what you think about with the players right now.
Well, I was just throwing it out there. I really like the Iceman, and I guess I just think I'm gonna go the opposite of you guys. I think that Warriors team would be a lot of fun. But I think when you're talking about the second round of the playoffs, I think you're still knuckling down, and I think there's going to be a lot better defense. So when I look at Ginobili, Leonard, Duncan, Robinson, that's four starters right there that'll play defense. Then you bring in Sean Elliott. He's going to play D. I'm not sure about the Iceman, George Gervin, but he's a way throwback. So maybe he's still, maybe it was still the knockdown bloodfest that went on in the 60s and the 70s. So just leaning that way, that I think I think Pop's going to coach him, and I think he's going to find a way to slow down the Gunners on the Warriors. So I'm going to go with the Spurs.
So just to let you know, Rick Barry stopped in 1980, and Gervin played till 90.
He played until 90. Holy cow! I was going to guess 84, 85.
I remember George Gervin as a Quad City Thunder. He played a couple years with the Quad City Thunder at the end.
It said he played from 72 to 90. We're less than a minute here, Coach Borgman. Who do you got?
Hey, I'm Spurs.